Hello student and welcome to the today's online session. Myself Dr. S.R. Patil. I am working as assistant professor in chemistry at the Maratha Vidya Prasrak Samajas S.VK.T Arts, Science and Commerce College, Deolali Camp, Nasik. Dear student, today's session is for the TYBSc student and the subject is the environmental chemistry. And we discuss the chapter number 1st, that is the concept and scope of environmental chemistry. Dear student, we had already discussed the first session of this chapter. Now today we take a recap of our previous session. In the previous session we had discussed some introductory part about the environmental chemistry. Then we had discussed different terminologies or different terms which are frequently used in the environmental chemistry. After that we had learned about the environmental pollution. We had discussed the different definition of environmental pollution, and after that we had discussed the environmental classification in the previous session. Along with that we had also discussed different segments of the environment. Now today we discuss about the biogeochemical cycles, that is the natural cycles in the environment. Dear student, you know that there are different natural cycles in the environment. In that today we first discuss about the carbon cycle, then further we discuss about the nitrogen cycle, then next cycle we will discuss in today's lecture is the phosphorus cycle and the sulfur cycle. All these 4 natural cycles we have discussed in our today's session. The learning objective of today's sessions are, after the today's session students should be know about the importance and the conservation of the environment, and the most important point student learn in today's session is the importance of biogeochemical cycles. We know that all these cycles are very important as concerned to the human beings. So in the biogeochemical cycle in the environment, first we discuss some introductory part about the natural cycles. We know that the biosphere consists of the earth crust and it includes various species of life which exist in the zone, that is the 600 meters above and 10,000 meters below sea level. Okay. In this zone approximately biosphere contains at least 9.3 into 10 raised to 5 species of animals, then about 3.3 into 10 raised to 5 species of green plants, and the 8 into 10 raised to 4 species of bacteria and fungi. Okay. So the total number of species may be approximately 3 millions, okay, which are included in this zone, which are observed in this zone. So as the biosphere is a very complex and it is divided into smallest unit or ecosystems. Okay. This is the biosphere, and these ecosystems can divided into biotic and abiotic segments. We know that biotic means the living things and non-abiotic means the non-living. So these biogeochemical cycles in the environment are the cyclic pathway, okay, and in this cycle a regular and continuous transition of elements occur from the environment. So the meaning of that word biogeochemical cycle we here discuss. We know that the word bio means the living organism, and the word geo means the soil environment, and the word chemical indicates the elements such as the carbon, sulfur, phosphorus, which are undergoes the transition continuously through this cycle. This is the meaning of the word biogeochemical. Okay. Dear student, we know that these cycles having 2 types. First one is the sedimentary cycle. okay, and it is a reservoir pool in the sediments. And the example of that sedimentary cycle is the sulfur and phosphorus cycle. And the second type of the cycle is the gaseous cycle. We know that it is a reservoir pool in the atmosphere. An example of such a type of gaseous cycles are the oxygen, carbon, hydrogen and nitrogen cycles. Okay, these are the two types of cycle. First one is the sedimentary cycle, second one is the gaseous sample. Now, the natural cycles and the ecosystems operates in a balanced manner. We know that these natural cycles are very important. So, they stabilize the whole biosphere and sustain the life processes on earth. Okay. So, in this important biogeochemical cycle, first cycle is the carbon cycle. Okay. We know that it operates to the circulation of the carbon. So, it is of the biological chemistry, okay, that means the organic chemistry through the environment. Okay. And we know that the carbon is present as a CO2, carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And we also know that the carbon content or CO2, it is in a minor, but it is an important constituent of the atmosphere. We know that a part of it is dissolved in the surface water and groundwater as a HCO3 minus, that is hydrogen carbonates. Okay. And the major portion of this is dissolved in a sea and ocean waters. Here it is fixed as a carbonate minerals at the sea or in a ocean bottom. Okay. So, in the carbonate minerals form. Then the part of carbon is fixed by the photosynthesis by the green plants as the biological carbon. Okay. Some fractions of the carbon is fixed as a coal, lignite, petroleum and the natural gas. Okay. This is the carbon cycle. Then it should be noted that the carbon cycle is mainly based on the transfer of carbon to biological systems and finally to gas sphere as a fossil carbon, fossil fuels. Okay, it is a transformation of carbon to biological system. In that the microorganism also plays the important role in the carbon cycle for the mediating the significant biochemical reactions. All these microorganisms are very essential to initiate or mediate the different type of biochemical reactions. And these microorganisms also degrade the organic carbon into carbon dioxide from the biomass, then the fossil fuels and finally returns it to the atmosphere. Okay. So, this is the carbon cycle which we had discussed here. Okay. The carbon present in the atmosphere in the form of carbon dioxide and utilize this carbon dioxide by the different reactions, for example uptakes of for the photosynthesis through the plants. Okay. And also some carbon dioxide uptakes in oceans. Okay. And it converted into hydrogen carbonate HCO3 and organic carbon. Okay. And then it deposits as a mineral deposits carbonate CO3 minus in the form. Okay. This is the carbon cycle which is we discuss here. Then after the carbon cycle, next important cycle, natural cycle in the environment is the nitrogen cycle. We know that when we measure the constituent as a percentage wise, nitrogen is the main constituent of the atmosphere, about 79%. Okay. And it cannot be absorbed directly by the most form of the life. Okay. So, therefore, it must be fixed before it can be used by the plants and animal. So, in the nitrogen cycle, nitrogen and its compounds are essential for the maintenance of life processes in the biosphere. What is the importance of nitrogen and its compound? We know that as concerned for maintenance of the life process of the biosphere. In that, the plants and animal continuously produce the proteins, and these proteins are organic compounds and they contain the nitrogen. Okay. So, plants absorbs nitrate from the soil to produce these proteins, and then nitrogen fixation is of the two types. We know that there are two types of nitrogen fixation. First one is the nitrogen fixation by physicochemical reactions. In this process, it is combination of nitrogen and oxygen, okay, and it is due to thunderstorms in a rainy season. This is the reaction how these combination of nitrogen and oxygen forms the nitric acid, okay, and that is the acid rain comes to the earth. It combines with the basic components in the soil to form the nitrates, okay, and these nitrates thus formed are the basic food of the plant in the soil, okay. This is the reaction for the formation of nitrates, okay. In the first reaction, formation of ammonium nitrate, while in the second reaction there is the formation of calcium nitrate, and these nitrate are formed as a basic food for the plant in the soil. Second way of the nitrogen fixation is transformation by the bacteria, okay. We know that it is based on the four major chemical transformation. In that first chemical transformation is a nitrogen fixation. Nitrogen fixation, in the nitrogen fixation, the molecular nitrogen is fixed as a organic nitrogen by the rhizobium bacteria, okay, and this is a reaction of molecular nitrogen fixation into the organic bacteria, that is the formation of carbon dioxide plus 4NH4 plus, okay, that is ammonia. In the second step is the nitrification. In this step, the oxidation of NH3 takes place and to form the NO3 minus, that is the nitrate ion by the nitrosomonas and nitrobacter, okay, and this is the reaction of formation of nitrate ion, that is oxidation of NH3 into the NO3 minus ion, that is the nitrate ion. Third step is the reduction of nitrate to nitrite ion, that means the reduction of NO3 minus ion into the NO2 minus ion, that is the nitrite ion reduction process. And fourth step is the denitrification. In this step, the reduction of nitrogen trioxide NO3 and NO3 minus ion, that is the nitrate ion, into nitrite ion takes place. That means reduction of NO3 and NO3 minus ions into NO2 minus ion, that is the nitrite ions, okay. And then after reduction, the recycling of N2, that is the nitrogen, to the atmosphere takes place, okay. This is how the nitrogen is recycled in atmosphere is denoted by the reaction, okay. We know that man is responsible with the natural cycles by the industrially fixing nitrogen, okay. Man is responsible for different with these different type of natural cycle. When we consider particularly about the nitrogen cycle, this process is influenced or responsible by the natural cycle of nitrogen by the industrially fixing nitrogen, okay. So plants are absorbed the nitrogen and re-enters into the nitrogen cycle. We know that some soil microorganisms break down the soil nitrates into nitrogen by the denitrification process. That is the role of microorganism is also important in the nitrogen fixation or denitrification process, while the other change nitrogen into soluble nitrogen compounds at the rate of 0.1 ton per year. That means about 4 to 7 tons of nitrogen per hectare is added to the soil per year, okay. It's a very big or large quantity about the addition of nitrogen in a soil per year, okay. So, this is the diagram of a nitrogen cycle which we have discussed now. Okay. In that the atmospheric nitrogen is converted into the organic nitrogen NH3, okay, and then it is converted into NO3 minus ion and then into NO2 minus ion, and that NO2 minus ions are uptakes by the plant for making the proteins, and then from plants to animal, and from animals to again plant and animal dead material, that it is a dead organic residue into the soil, and from the soil once again this conversion is continuously formed in the cyclic form. This is a nitrogen cycle. Okay. After nitrogen cycle, there is the next important cycle is a phosphorus cycle. We know that in generally the naturally phosphorus which is occur in the environment as a phosphates PO43 minus, then HPO4 minus, that is hydrogen phosphate, and H2PO4, that is a phosphoric acid, or it is available in nature as a soluble inorganic and soluble organic phosphates, then particular phosphates, or as a mineral phosphate. These are the different type of naturally occurring forms of the phosphates in the environment. We know that the phosphates are essential for the growth and support of animal bones and the teeth. On the other hand, the organophosphates are essential for cell division and production of nuclear DNA and RNA. These are the some essential crucial use of the phosphates for the different type of processes. We know that the plant and the animals get their nutrition via the energy metabolic pathway with a chemical utilizing the adenosine triphosphate, that is the ATP, okay, that gives the energy, provides the energy to perform the different type of works to the cells. Okay. Then the phosphate minerals are found in rocks and soil, okay. And then on the other hand, the phosphate exists in a soluble and insoluble form. We know that the plants on the earth absorb the inorganic phosphate salt from the soil and converts them into organic phosphate. This is a mechanism how to the phosphate or the phosphorus are recycled into the environment. First, plants on the earth are absorb inorganic phosphate, and that from the inorganic phosphate salt, okay, and from the soil they absorb this and then convert into the organic phosphates, and then animals obtain their phosphates by eating these plants. Okay, this is a circulation of the phosphates. After the death of that plants and animals, and then decades return to the phosphate to the soil, that is the recycling of the phosphate, okay, and they are then converted to humus, and this is due to the action of soil microorganism. Here once again the role of microorganism is most important. So, most of these phosphates in the soil is fixed or absorbed on the soil particles, and remaining part is lost by leaching into the water courses. Okay. Then the soluble inorganic phosphate absorbs in a freshwater phytoplanktons. Okay. This is the phosphorus cycle process, okay, and it is then converted into the organophosphates. We know that what is the effects of the deficiency or lack of the phosphates. Okay. We know that as concerned to the soil, the lack of phosphorus in the soil causes the soil infertility. Okay. In order to avoid this infertility or lack of phosphate, we use the superphosphate or a triple superphosphates added into the soil to overcome the deficiency or the lack of the phosphorus. This is the diagrammatic representation of the phosphorus cycle. Okay. The source of that phosphorus is the rock containing phosphates and volcanoes after the erosion, it phosphates incorporated into the soil, and from soil they are transformed into the different segments in that shallow sea water reservoirs, then plant procedures in deep sea. Okay. From soil it goes to the plant procedures, and then from plant to consumers, okay, animals and human beings, and then into the consumers through decomposition, and once again go to the soil. Okay. This is the cycle, how it circulates, recycled into the environment. This is all about the phosphorus cycle. And next cycle is the sulfur cycle. Okay. We know that the plant and animal depends on a continuous supply of sulfur. Sulfur is the most essential for the plants and animal. Sulfur and its compounds are essential constituent of proteins and amino acids. Okay. Therefore, the sulfur cycle may be having two types. There is a gaseous cycle and sedimentary cycle. First one is the gaseous cycle of sulfur. In that, the sulfur enters the atmosphere through the bacterial emission, that is the H2S, hydrogen sulfide, then through the fossil fuel burning in the form of SO2, sulfur dioxide, also through the wind blow sea salt, that is in the form of SO4 2 minus, okay, and through the volcanic emission. Okay. All different types of sulfur content are enters into the atmosphere, okay, in different forms. We said different forms. So, sulfur in the form of sulfur dioxide or H2S, that is hydrogen sulfide, is converted to SO3, that is the sulfur trioxide, and that SO3 thus formed when comes in contact with water from the H2SO4. SO2 in contact with water forms the H2SO4, that is the sulfuric acid, and due to the burning of fossil fuels, sulfur cycle is overloaded and then turns to acid rain is observed. This is about the gaseous sulfur cycle. Next sulfur cycle is the sedimentary sulfur cycle. We know that the sulfur tracts of organic and inorganic deposits is released due to the weathering and the decomposition. Sulfur thus released in the form of the SO4 2 minus ions, okay, and then it is carried to terrestrials and the ecosystems in the form of salt solution. So, sulfur is also added to the system from the fertilizers. We use a different type of sulfur containing fertilizers. So, it is also introduced to the different type of fertilizers. In short, we say that the sulfur cycle shows the circulation of sulfur and its compounds in the environment. Okay. This is the circulation of sulfur and sulfur containing compounds into the environment by the different types of processes. Okay. So, dear student, this is all about the today's session. In the today's session, we have discussed different types of biogeochemical cycles, that is the natural cycles in the environment. In that first, today we had discussed about the carbon cycle, then we discussed about the nitrogen cycle, then third we had discussed about the phosphorus cycle, and lastly we had discussed about the sulfur cycle. This is the overall summary of today's session. Dear student, on this today's discussion, there is a session assignment for you. In that, you have to write down the different type of cycles we discuss here. In that, we explain in depth the nitrogen cycle, the carbon cycle, the sulfur cycle, and the phosphorus cycle with their diagram. Okay. So, solve this assignment and send me on the Google Classroom for the TYBSc students. Dear student, in the next lecture, we will discuss about the next chapter from the environmental chemistry, and the name of that chapter is the different techniques used for the analysis of water. Thank you very much.